I will now recognize our ranking member and the sponsor of H.R. 4735, the gentleman from Utah, Mr. Chaffetz, for 5 minutes.
Top of the morning to you, Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing in such a timely manner. I do truly appreciate it. I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter 3 documents into the record. One is the so-called FERDI report, the Federal Employee Retiree Delinquency Initiative, as well as the TIGTA, Treasury Inspector General of Tax Administration document, as well as President Obama's remarks regarding paying of taxes for contractors that was made on January 20th of this year.
Hearing no objection, those records are entered into the record.
Thank you. I'd also like to note for the record that Mr. Christopher Ryzik of Kaplan and Drysdale is one of our witnesses today. Today is the first time that I've met Mr. Ryzik, but it should be noted that my campaign has used Kaplan and Drysdale for some minor campaign issues. I've had no interaction, nor did I have any interaction in the selection of this witness, but I do think it's proper to note that for the record.
We will not hold it against him.
Thank you. At the heart of this matter is an issue of fairness, and I happen to concur 100% with President Obama. And I'm going to read a few comments that he made on January 20th on signing of the memorandum blocking tax delinquent applicants from obtaining government contracts. From President Obama, quote, "All across this country there are people who meet their obligations each and every day. You do your jobs, you support your families, you pay your taxes you owe because it's a fundamental responsibility of citizenship. And yet somehow it's become standard practice in Washington to give contracts to companies that don't pay their taxes." Further, he went on to say, quote, "The status quo then is inefficient and it's wasteful. But the larger and more fundamental point is that it's wrong. It is simply wrong for companies to take taxpayer dollars and not be taxpayers themselves. So we need to insist on the same sense of responsibility in Washington that so many of you strive to uphold in your own lives, in your own families, in your own business. That principle is true for contractors, and I think that same principle should be true for federal employees." The language that has been presented in this document in much was lifted, if you will, or patterned after H.R. 572. Which I have asked to be joined on as a co-sponsor. I think it's a good piece of legislation. I'm proud to be a Republican joining on as a co-sponsor of this Democratic initiative. I think it's right. I support it, and I think we should hope and expect that it would pass. My simple point that I'm trying to make is that the same principle for contractors should be true for federal employees. Now, the overwhelming majority of federal employees do the right thing. They pay their taxes. They work hard. They contribute to the good of the United States of America. But we have a few bad apples. And as lawmakers, we have a duty and responsibility to hold them to a high standard. Many would argue, including me, we should hold them to a little bit higher standard. If you are going to have the privilege of working for the United States of America, I think you have a duty and obligation to pay your taxes. Now, if somebody is trying to do the right thing, the intention is not to just simply lop off their head and ruin their lives. There are 2 fundamental and distinct outs, if you will, in this bill that I do take issue with what has been said previously, and characterizations of this bill I think are inaccurate. There are exceptions to when you would be terminated. Number 1, a debt that is being paid in a timely manner pursuant to an agreement. So if you're trying to dig out from under a rock, you're trying to make good, if you're trying to actually do the right thing and you're on a payment plan, of course it would not be in the best interest of the United States of America or for that person individually for them to be fired. So if you're doing the right thing and you're trying to pay your obligation, you've got a payment plan in place, there is no reason to terminate that employment. The second part is a debt with respect to which a collection due process hearing is requested or pending. There's some language in between there. But if you have a request for a hearing, or if you have a hearing pending, again, under this law, under this bill, there would be no reason and no way for your employment to be terminated. I think that's fair. I am obviously very open to suggestions. But, Mr. Chairman, at the core of what I'm trying to convey here is that it is a principle that the President has articulated, I agree with. Most people are not going to be affected by this. If you pay your taxes, there won't be a problem. But if you're a federal employee and you're not paying your taxes and you're not on a plan to do so, then I think you should be fired. Thank you, Mr. Chair.